Mike Kazala, and welcome to the Move More, Learn More podcast. Now I'm going to turn it over to my dear friend, co-author, and co-host, Dr. Lynn Kenny.
Oh, Mike, it's so good to see you this morning. We are with our dear friend, Allie Golding in London. I met Allie probably 10 years ago, and she contributed a beautiful chapter to our book. She's an expert in dance. She's written dance programs for neurounique children. And Allie, we want to welcome you here today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. And obviously, I'm delighted to have contributed to this amazing book as well.
So tell us a little bit about your work.
If it's all right, I'll start with me just to give a bit of context.
I love it. Love it. Yeah.
So I have a background as a professional dancer and choreographer, and then a postgrad Masters of Science in Dance Movement Science, a postgrad in Special Educational Needs. And I'm the only, well, I think I am anyway, the only neurotypical in my immediate family. Oh. So I think that gives a good kind of context to my interest in this work. I became professionally interested in how my own children weren't really being served well in school for their difficulties, and how dance movement might not only support them, but other children too. So I set about designing and testing a program based on the body of existing research that was available at the time. And there still isn't all that much dance related stuff. So I had to be creative and apply other areas of work. And in fact, I think that's how I came across Mike's work. I think that's when we first connected. Yes. The program I created was called Developmental Dance Movement. It is still called that. Proved to enhance developmental maturity by 7 to 15% after a weekly exposure to the intervention. Children with identified delays and those on the spectrum did especially well, which is how my work and my professional and research interests have become more autism focused. So the work wasn't specifically designed for neurodivergent children particularly, but all the scientific underpinnings, and when we look at those in the context of the book, really underline why neurodivergent children might do particularly well with this approach. So fast forward 15 years, I'm now the founder and director of a charity that I set up to disseminate this work. We deliver evidence-based dance movement programs that support development and learning. That's their primary focus. We also contribute to the evidence base. I say we, that's mainly me and my academic colleagues, of which you guys here are most esteemed, considerable members of that. An example being our latest published paper, published 2024 in the Journal of Special Educational Needs. So we've published in dance journals, now special educational needs journals, as well as autism-focused publications as well. So
that's fantastic. And so, Allie, it leads to a natural question. Why is dance so beneficial for children?
Well,
you only have 30 seconds to answer.
Yeah, my gosh. I would say to get the best understanding, you should read the book. My chapter speaks to and echoes the building of all of the author's contributions, particularly with a focus to building of neural networks, interhemispheric connectivity. And if you want to go deeper, there's so much. I mean, it's so impressive what you've put together. I'm so proud and honoured that I am an author representing evidence-based dance movement programs in this book. And in the context of which it's presented, it really, I mean, everything is there to be, to go deeper into all the supporting research, All of the impactful elements of movement are so clearly presented and separated out in this book. And for me, I think what so exciting about it is hopefully people will understand how that comes together in dance. So the movement, and by that I mean not just the general benefits of physical exercise, which I think most people generally understand that, moving is good for your health. But the thing that I think people really struggle with, and I was delighted, I've been dipping into the book and reading other people's chapters, delighted that Mike picked up on the fact that I really want to communicate that dance is more about the brain than it is of the body. We think of dance and movement being about the body, but it really is about the brain. So all of those things, all the patterns and sequences, the reflex inhibitors that are covered so well in the book by other authors, the rhythmical aspects, the musical elements, the social piece, because of course we dance with other people. So the multimodal accessibility, and then particularly my kind of research focus, what I'm really excited about as a researcher, working through all of this in a grassroots level when we're looking at projects that we have out there across the UK, the non-verbal means of communication and expression and how that supports speech and language development. So, I mean, dance straddles, I like to say it straddles like physical exercise and artistic expression, making it intrinsically fun, motivating, and quite easily, readily differentiated for different students. So, I mean, our programs don't just have some of these elements. I think what distinguishes what we do as a charity, what MovementWorks does as a charity, using dance to support development and learning, those things are applicable to other dance programs. But I think the uniqueness of our approach is the fact that it's put together in a very intentional, scaffolded and crafted way, specifically to work through those benefits and have some tangible, measurable outcomes to the work.
You know, Mike and I can really relate to the patterned, sequenced, developmentally appropriate pieces of this. And it's interesting because as I started to study more of the subcortical and subterranean, those are the brainstem elements of development, I became acutely aware that dance and music need to be in all autism treatment programs. And as you know, people start at behavior and learning, and all of the pillars need to be addressed first. So that makes me think,
absolutely,
what could, like a parent is watching this today and they're like, okay, I buy in, this is great. What could we do at home, or are there activities you could show us that we could start implementing what you've created now?
Yeah, well, obviously they're outlined in a small part in the book. I think what would be really helpful before I launch into that, if that's okay, is to talk about the autism movement therapy side of the work that we do.
Okay.
So through when I started this developmental dance movement program, disseminating that work, presenting it, I came across an amazing lady called Joanne Lara, who is a co-author of the chapter in the book, who developed this autism specific program called Autism Movement Therapy. So we spent several years presenting together, including contributing on a certified course on expressive modalities for supporting individuals with autism. So you're absolutely right, even before I realized how powerful that this was for the neurodivergent community, she was already doing that. And so it made sense to come together. And it's really an important part of, our charitable work now. And I think that's how we met as well, Lynn, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, I met Joanne and you in Boston when we spoke at a Movementis talk in 2018, I think.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that was important to say before we kind of launch into anything kind of practical. So shall we go through some of the stuff from the book?
I would adore that.
Right, let's start with, actually, I mean, what I really like to say first is the musical element. So one of the things I think people struggle with if you have a neurodivergent child is, first of all, is my child might not be able to follow instructions. They don't have access, they're pre-verbal, they won't be able to participate. So one of the powerful elements, first of all, is that we know, and again, it's highlighted so well in other areas in the book, is that the musical elements are so powerful for engagement and motivation, but also the areas of the brain that are sometimes difficult to access from speech and language, the musical ones stay intact. So one of the first things that I might do, and we do in the methodology, is to sing the instructions. So if you can imagine, we might start an autism movement therapy class with some, I think you call them polyspots on the floor, with some polyspots on the floor. And so we don't need any specific instructions other than to put those spots on the floor. Sometimes they're different, we use different markers. And then I might start with on your spots now, on your spots now. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Standing on your spots now, standing on your spots now. Dance with me, dance with me. Very clear. I'll use gesture as well, pointing to the spots. Everybody's given a specific place to be. So we know, because, space is quite, I like to say space is quite liquid and abstract. So it makes it understandable. It makes it tangible. I can use minimal words. It's very clear what we're going to do. And then the music goes on, and then we'll do a warm-up sequence. And again, it doesn't need explaining, because copy me is how we develop as humans, So the music goes on, copy me, and then we'll start. So again, I'm sitting down. So for now, imagine we're standing up, and we'll do a warm-up sequence. I'm not going to do, we'd normally start a slower tempo, but let's start with this. And imagine we've had the benefit of coming to sessions on a weekly basis for a period of time. So we're going to start with this because it's easy for me to show on a screen sitting down. So you're going to do it with me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to do 2 taps. Imagine that we're doing this on our legs. Tap for 2, clap for 2, push for 2, head for 2. Let's try that. So we do 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Repeat. 7 and 8. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Across clap, across clap, across clap, across clap. Yeah, let's do that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Across clap, across clap, across clap, across clap. Elbow, elbow, roll, freeze. So that last bit is elbow, elbow, roll, freeze. And you might copy my freeze, or I might ask you to do your own freeze. And now we've got a movement phrase. I find it interesting that we also share this language about the same word. We call it a movement phrase in dance, but it's a phrase in language as well. It's a phrase in speech and language. So should we try it?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
5, 6, 7, 8. Imagine we've got music to keep us motivated, having fun. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Across clap, across clap, cross clap, cross clap. Elbow, elbow, roll, freeze. Yeah. And then, we can level up by adding different facings, by adding step patterns underneath, doing it in partners. I mean, it's creative. So, you can do what you want with it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mike, do you marvel at the fact that you created a program? You did it first with Tracy. I've created programs. Allie's created programs. Mary Mount Stevens created programs. Biani. I mean, and then we all come together, and I literally have chills right now because it's so touching and meaningful that we've been speaking the same language for so long, and it only recently got into the science, really. And we are positive that this improves lives and brains and relationships. And it's like such an honor, Allie, for us to talk with you about this, because what you've created, like if people just download the activities from the book of your chapter, they can start your programming in their own homes and clinics and schools today. Like we can learn from you right now. And so the force multiplying of that just like makes me so excited that it really, with Move More, Learn More, finally, the science is accessible and people can do your activities. And I want to do that. In fact, I'm going to the gym in a little bit to lift, and I'm like, I've got the activities on my computer. I think I'm going to bring my computer and do some Valley's activities.
Allie, and I started my teaching career in Eastern Colorado in a town of 500, served a farming community. My wife grew up in this town and she graduated, I think, with 26 kids. A very, very small rural area. So I'm thinking about those parents who might have a neurodiverse child in a small rural town where there might not be an opportunity to, do live dance instruction, etc. What would you recommend to them? I mean, they can certainly read your work in the book, but is there a place that they can go? Are there some resources that they can use?
Yeah, absolutely. So aside from the work that we deliver, I mean, the core work that we deliver as a charity is in schools. A lot of those projects are publicly funded. And we also have some projects in the community. But you're right, geographical reach is much more enhanced by our training offers. And also we have, I don't know if you're aware of this, we have a growing dance and demand library. So that started off during the pandemic because we couldn't reach our children in person.
Great.
And we weren't entirely sure how that was going to work in a kind of virtual offer, but a lot of the children, and particularly again our neurodivergent community, did really well with that. So for example, our school programs were delivered by one of our specialist team of practitioners who was taking the sessions from home, and they were accessing it on a screen, and they were doing really, really well with it. You know, I was worried that the focus wouldn't be there because we weren't in the room, but that's actually not what happened. Partly, I think, because they were all, again, because it's structured and crafted very specifically, you know, the music they're familiar with, the structure of the sessions they're familiar with, so they were immediately able to kind of jump straight in with that, with that familiar person. And so what we've done is we've developed that as an on-demand library, and so we have a number of sessions, and again, you know, we're contributing new content to that all the time, which means that people who are working supporting their children with their education at home, I don't know if that happens a lot in the States, but here it does, you know. There are a lot of children who for some reason are struggling or haven't yet got a place in the appropriate school. So a lot of parent carers are using that for that. Obviously, the geographical reach is enhanced. And then we're also using them as training tools so that we're developing educators to take the programs on in-house. And we're using those pre-recorded sessions to support their development and learning in a virtual way.
And is that something we can put in the notes, the show note, the podcast notes, so people can find that work, those on that online?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will do that.
I'm sitting here thinking that about, I would say 4 years ago, and Allie, I want your professional opinion. I am a lay person dancer, right? I'm not well trained. I do dance. But
I've seen some recent video. You're doing more and more, aren't you? Which is lovely to see. Yeah.
So I've started referring specifically my children with ADHD to what I call sport dance. So sport dance is ballroom dance, but it's very patterned, very sequenced. It's not tango, you know, and I've been referring them to karate and horseback riding and swimming since I met Ron Melmet in, 1994. Do you have an opinion about if parents wanted to put their children in a dance program, like 3 times a week, which kind of dance do you think is helpful for the children with inattention, difficulties with memory, difficulty with self-regulation? Do you have an opinion?
I absolutely do. First of all, the developmental dance movement program is underpinned by Montessori pedagogy. And if you know anything about Montessori, one of the underlying principles is follow the child. So, and additionally, you may have heard the quote from MovementWorks advocate, Dr. Stephen Shaw, that no two neurodivergent people are alike. If you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. So my advice predominantly is to tune into personal interests and strengths first. So if there's a particular kind of music or particular style of dance that you think your child might like best, that's a good place to start, I think. I mean, a strength-based paradigm is also a framework for the NEST program, which is led by another one of our colleagues. Do you know Christy Patton, NYU?
No, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, so we regularly contribute to that program when some of the students come to London and vice versa. I've been to New York delivering on that program. It's the largest inclusion program supporting New York public schools. So what's important to say here is that follow the child, follow their interests, develop strengths, And then above and beyond that, it's the patterns and the sequences, as I've mentioned already, that are the game changers. So that can be delivered in any dance style with any music and, you know, support your individual person in that way. For our youngers who are developing their general life experiences and their preferences, the developmental dance movement program introduces and exposes as many different musical styles and movement styles as possible. So classical, folk, country, jazz, pop, world music is a lovely resource to use. And then you can sort of, you know, you're delivering to your students in a creative way, you know, in front of them, and you're making those sessions bespoke for them. Does that
I
answer?
knew you would have a
Hopefully.
really meaningful answer. So I don't know
Yeah.
if you know this, but Mike is not only a musician, but he used to be a band leader.
I think I did know that. I know music's been a huge part of your life. Yeah, I think I was aware of that. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has. Yeah, I've
It's
had
so
kind of,
powerful, isn't it?
it's
It's
very,
just so
very
powerful. Yeah.
powerful. Yeah. I have other stories about that, Lynn. You're right. I took some modern dance in college. I was actually bodybuilding at the time and working on a lot of posing routines. And so I figured, hey, that modern dance, and it was fascinating and hard and quite a learning experience.
Yeah, yeah. I think actually what's important to also mention is that it's usually from this work, we're usually what I call process led. So there's not the pressure to, because when you think about dance, you think about performance, don't you? So there's not the pressure to perform. It's very much an experiential process led way of approaching it. However, having said that, you know, we have in the past and do have groups that are really motivated by performing. And if that's the case, then there's no issue harnessing that. But I think recognizing it and differentiating that is quite key, you know, because we don't want to increase anxiety by for that reason, you know.
You know, we were supposed to ask
So
you
are
about
there
yours.
any?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got one more question. And it's not
Yeah,
on
go, go, go.
our show notes, but I value your opinion and I really want your opinion. And Mike is
Yeah.
going to be interested in this too. So when I teach other teachers about my movement programs, they say, should I use music? And I say, I like the children to establish internal beat competency and then we'll use music.
Mm-hmm.
Yet in your program, you use music from the beginning and it's super beneficial. So, can you
Mm-hmm.
give me your viewpoint on the balance of when you know, because these children, they have temporal motor delays often, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
don't, most of them don't have good beat saliency or competency. So, provide
Mm-hmm.
us your professional opinion. When can we introduce music from the very beginning? Are we looking for something more developmental before we introduce music?
That's a great question. The music is used with so many different purposes across the programs. I find that, for example, coming into an environment, so when I've got children coming into, let's say, for example, a community project and or a school project, they might be coming from various different other class groups. So music in the environment helps set the tone, helps set the energy level. So that's helpful for transition, which can be a really tricky area for neurodivergent individuals, that transition from one space to another. Remember, I mentioned about the polyspots or the markers on the floor as well, to make things less abstract. I think it underpins that it's going to be a dance experience. Then I mentioned, you know, I will sing a lot of the instructions to minimize the words and support what's coming next. First it's this, next it's this. Then I'll put the music on and we'll just go. And again, that's a very well chosen, crafted playlist to support things like tempo and energy matching. And then in terms of beat competency, we will have, so we do a lot of the, what I call, and it's interesting that you've got a program, I think, called Brain Primers. We use a lot of these activities to prime the brain for learning. So we'll do vestibular and proprioceptive and gross motor locomotion and all of those things that support what I would call kind of recalibrating in a way. And then we'll do the most heavy cognitive piece in the middle. And interestingly enough, that's often when we don't use music straight away. And we'll do that so that we can differentiate for the different learners in the room. And then we'll do a whole learning piece without music. And then if it's then appropriate and creative, then we'll put it back together with the music. So we've got information looping. We get as practitioners lots of information about how those individuals are doing with those kind of aspects. For example, the beat competency or the speech, language and communication without the music. And that informs how we then might develop and scaffold their learning accordingly.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And what you're saying is that just according to what needs to be done, and you can make a good decision as the facilitator.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The intentionality is what, as I sit here, I just put some of your quotes in the chat because they're beautiful and we're going to share them. But the intentionality really comes through when you're speaking about it. So this really being child-centered, really following the child, really being intentional. And I knew you'd say something interesting about beat competency, and I think it's brilliant to put the harder work in the middle. And I think I'm going to change the way I interact with children as of today in that way, because I do follow them for sure, but we're scaffolding the whole time. And I think that I'm going to give them more of a breather, I let them free play like on the drums, but I think that I'm going to add your intentionality of put the heavy stuff in the middle and then let them come out with grace and ease and, leave the room feeling really motivated and competent. I just think that's so important.
Yeah, it's very much an arc.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that also follows the same arc in any dance class. Joanne always used to say it's very different content and it's a very different intentional outcome, but the same is true. If you go to a classical ballet class, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you go into that class and you know exactly what you're going to expect. It's left hand on the bar, plies, then it's tendus, then you have all of your bar work, then you come into the center, and then there's an arc where the technical demands, technical cognitive, to me they're the same thing, get more intense, and then the arc comes down at the end. And then that's a really important aspect of everything we do as well, that we never send our students out like this. There's always a curve down, and that includes co-regulation and bringing everyone into a more grounded place in order to leave that space as well. Yeah.
Fantastic, Ali. You've given us so much today, so many resources to think about. We'll put some of those in the show notes. And is there any other resources, individuals that you'd like to share with our community?
Yeah, so obviously I've mentioned the Dance on Demand library, so there's no geographical limits to that. And as I say, we're adding content all the time. And then the training courses. So we've got a one-day course coming up in London in September 25th, I believe, which will be both a theoretical and practical experience of, if you like, putting that book chapter on its feet. Mm-hmm. For people to really get a first-hand experiential understanding of what that work is on the floor. And then we take our AMT training worldwide. So we've got our 2-day intensive stage 1 autism movement therapy training in London on the 10th and 11th of October. And then we are taking it to the US later in the month. I believe that is the 24th and 25th, and that will be in Pittsburgh.
Fantastic. Love that city. You're going to have a great time.
First time, yes, first time I'm going there. So yeah, we've delivered in the US before. We've delivered in New York. Of course, autism movement therapy started in LA, and we've taken it to India and Bangladesh and other parts of Asia too. And I'm hoping, we take commission. So yeah, if anybody's interested in taking the training, developmental dance movement training and or autism movement therapy training elsewhere, then yeah, people can definitely get in contact with us for sure. And then we're together in Cambridge, aren't we?
Yeah.
In the autumn too, which I'm so excited about, delivering that symposium as well.
Our symposium at Cambridge is going to be so interesting because Michaela Lukes is going to talk on remedial physical education. She's been doing it for 30 years. Angela Molino, if he can come, is going to talk about music, applied music theory. There might be the woman from Panama who created the United Schools of Panama might be joining us. So we definitely now have a consortium of people. Oh, and Crispiani and Palmieri are coming. We have a consortium of like-minded people who want to bring intentional movement to classrooms and clinics and homes worldwide. All right, well, we're going to stay so long. This has been amazing. We're so grateful to you, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Cambridge.
Pleasure.
We'll see you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Allie.
Thanks so much. It's amazing what you're putting together as well. Feel so grateful to be part of it. Thank goodness, our movement mission's getting out there.
Yes.